Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us today for our latest webinar. We're incredibly excited to introduce Aura, the next generation of hybrid finance. So let's jump right into it and go right into the agenda for today's webinar. So first things first, we're going to go into a comprehensive overview of Aura, what it is, how it works. Then we're going to show you how to sell Aura. We'll spend some time talking about energy communities. Then we'll spend some time talking about how you pay for this project with cash or Credit Human, submitting Aura projects, and then like all of our webinars, we will end with a Q&A session. Now, about halfway through this presentation, you will see the option to start submitting questions for Q&A. We encourage you to do that when that pops up. And at the end of this presentation, we've got stakeholders here from Freedom, and we'll get those questions answered. So let's jump right into what Aura is and how it works. Aura is a dual financing product, meaning that it's a prepaid lease financed by a loan or paid in full with cash. This hybrid setup allows homeowners to benefit from tax benefits that are now only available to leases, but with more flexibility than a typical monthly lease. So let's take a deeper look at how this works. Leasing companies own the system and earn tax incentives. They in turn pass those benefits through to the homeowner through an upfront discount. The customer can pay for this discounted PPL with cash or with a loan through Credit Human. With the loan, there's a lower monthly payment to start since it's discounted already. There's no need to reamortize the loan since the tax credit is factored in from the jump. Customers can prepay the loan principal at any time, such as in the case of like a home sale. The customer can own the system as soon as the 6th anniversary, and regardless of who owns it, installer and manufacturer's warranty apply to the system owner. So it's an incredibly exciting solution, and let's now see what we're partnering with to make this work. So let's talk more about the parties involved in Aura. First, you have the prepaid leasing company. The lease provider we have partnered with and are launching today is Participate Energy. Their primary role is to monetize the tax credits that are available to lease systems. To do so, they must own the system until the 6th anniversary. Now, the entire time they own the system, they of course must ensure it's working as outlined in the lease agreement. But since they've already been paid in full, they are more than happy to give ownership back to the homeowner and end the lease once that 6-year period is up, which the customer has the option to do in the agreement. Now, next is the loan provider. Customers, of course, would pay the full amount due for the prepaid lease directly to Participate if they wanted, similar to a normal cash deal. But for most customers who want to break it down monthly, we're deepening our partnership with Credit Human, who will offer 20-year loan options on the prepaid lease. These are the same loans with the same credit requirements you've already been used to. So if the customer does decide to take ownership at the end of that 6th anniversary, the Credit Human loan will remain until it is fully repaid. But as normal, customers can pay the loan off whenever they want with no penalty, such as in the case of a home sale, or request up to 3 amortizations over the life of the loan. Now, the third party is, of course, the installer, Freedom Forever. We are here as the system's owner's long-term service provider, whether that be Participate Energy or the customer. So regardless of who owns the system, the homeowner is backstopped by long-term installation and manufacturer warranties. Now let's look at the numbers using a $40,000 system as an example. Aura projects can earn a discount of as much as 35% off of the normal cash price. That's even more than the original ITC. So for a $40K system through Aura in this example, the customer would only owe $26K. As we said a second ago, that $26K can be paid in cash by the homeowner, which would go through Paykeeper as normal, or financed with a Credit Human loan. So let's look at some examples of the discount percentages. Here is the breakdown based on the type of system. For a PV-only roof-mounted system, that will earn 35% across the board. PV-only ground-mounted systems that are in an energy community will earn 30%, as do all PV plus storage systems. Finally, PV-only ground mounts not in an energy community will earn a 25% discount. The discounts are different because of the nuances of the domestic content and the energy community's tax credit. We'll talk more about how to identify whether a project is in an energy community and how to choose the right option when selling in a few slides. But in either case, these are the discounts to the normal cash price that a homeowner would need to pay for the system. Now, here's what I think is the best part of Aura. Coming in January, Credit Human is offering Freedom Forever exclusively a 20-year escalating loan. This is the first of its kind we've seen in solar and gives you the power to offer incredibly low monthly payments, around 20% less than the standard 20-year. We expect this loan option to go live right around the first of the year and will be available with Aura as soon as it is. With the discount upfront amount and an escalating loan with super low year one payments, you get a product that wins in every single category. Speaking of, let's talk more about some of the finer details. Now, here is what is allowed with the Aura product. You can do ground mounts, rental homes, vacation homes, second homes, and condo if the roof is allowed, and manufactured homes with certain conditions. So let's talk about some of the requirements for this product. There is a 15% minus production tolerance, similar to cash deals. And for size tolerance, it's minus 3% or plus 10% that would trigger a change order. Now, you would be required to stay within those allowed property types. And when you're choosing the product, correctly choosing the product, whether it's 35%, 30%, the ground mount options, PV only, choosing the right product is important. If you don't choose the right product, you would then trigger a change order. It has the same Credit Human underwriting as normal, but as of right now, it cannot include a full re-roof. You can have the portions of the roof covered that the solar arrays are above. So anything that the solar array touches, that can be part of the re-roof. But that's temporary, and we will have a solution for that soon. Let's talk about where this is going to launch. The initial launch for this product is going to be in Arizona and California. But next up, it'll be opening in Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Texas, with the plan for all states to be opened next year. So let's review the high-level advantages of Aura. It's a superior product in that it preserves all of the tax credits and in some cases provides more than ever before, while at the same time allowing customers to own their systems for the long term. It offers a lower total cost than typical monthly leases or PPAs, also giving more options in the event of a home sale. It is more likely to increase home values than monthly PPAs, which historically have not proven to do so. And it allows customers with batteries to retain their long-term virtual power plant rights, which Freedom sees as the future of distributed generation and utility interaction. So from the rep's perspective, it's priced just like a loan, taking the guessing games out of net PPWs and commissions. It has a streamlined post-sale process with no savings test, a wide production tolerance, and fewer requirements that we expect to result in less change orders. And finally, with Credit Human's 20-year escalating loan, you have a product that no one else in the marketplace besides Freedom Forever does. That's massive. So how do we go about building a Aura proposal inside of Aurora? Let's take a look. You're going to build your proposal in Aurora and enter your usage and design as normal. Now, the base mod currently for the Aura product is the QCell 410. When you're pricing your Aura project, you would price it as if it was a loan or cash. So you'll click the pencil tool on the upper left-hand side and set your net price per watt. Then you'll check the appropriate adders, and if you've added storage to that project, it will be included in the adder cost. That will calculate it into the total financed amount that you'll need when you get to the financing screen, depending on the product you choose. So super important that you choose the adders here and set your net price per watt. In the Aura workflow, you no longer have to have your EPC set by the TPO partner. You set what you intend to make for a net price per watt on the upper left-hand side. Now, obviously, the important part, and we addressed this earlier in the presentation, is choose the option based on your project. Is it Credit Human or cash? Is it PV only, storage? Is it a roof mount or ground mount? Is it within an energy community or non-energy community based on that ground mount perspective? And then refer to the energy community map to determine that eligibility, and we'll show you how to do that a little bit later in the presentation. If you are going the cash route, Paykeeper Adder applies to all cash projects. Now, when you get to the finance screen, the financed amount is due from the customer via cash or credit human. You'll see a breakdown of the net cost, the total cost of the project, and the financed amount is what you would pay in cash or finance with credit human. It will be between 65 to 75% of the gross system price. Again, that net cost is what the normal cash price would have been prior to the discount that's built into the Aura project. And you can see here from the example on screen, the first 6 months free and the monthly payment that would be quoted to the customer. And you can see that discount already built directly into the monthly payments. So when it's time to submit your Aura proposal, you would use the same exit to CRM to complete the project generation workflow. Now, this is assuming that you've already completed your credit human application, the homeowner has signed all appropriate documentation. You'll get a financial breakdown that shows the adders, if there's storage, and that net price. And then a breakdown at the bottom of which portion of it is, say, your credit human solar loan and which portion of it is the Participate lease. The Participate lease documents will be included in the DocuSign portion in the project generator. So when you get to that final page and it allows you to upload the utility bill or any supporting documentation, the Participate lease documents will be included in that DocuSign workflow. Now, we referenced earlier, if you're doing a ground mount project, how to identify whether or not you're in an energy community. So there's a really cool tool that you can use, and we've provided a link here. You can use this link and it will take you directly to the energy community website. Search the address to find out if the property is in an eligible zone. You will likely see if it qualifies, and anything in that blue area on the map. After you search for the homeowner's address, you'll find out if it's in a pass or fail zone. So we've included the web link here in the presentation, but also if you want to take a moment to scan that QR code, that will take you directly to the Identifying Energy Communities website. And remember, this applies when you are doing ground mount projects. So it's probably, with the vast majority of our volume being TPO, you may have not used cash or credit human in a while, so we're going to do a quick overview of the cash or credit human process. Now, with credit human, you're going to take the financed amount on the proposal, and that's the number that you will use for the credit application. The credit application can be found on the rate card sheet in the Sales Resource Center, or if you search for the rate card using the tools built on the bottom left-hand side of Lightspeed. Match the plan number of the loan product chosen. Typically, that's plan 4780, which is the 20-year 8.49% no dealer fee loan. Again, you'll click the link in the rate card to access that loan application and send all the documents to the homeowner after the application has been filled out. 100 to 100,000. They don't have system size requirements. They do allow ground mounts and second systems. Remember, with credit human loans, there is no payments for the first 6 months after install. So the timer starts from the day of install on that project, and there's no payments for 6 months. For the credit check, it starts with Equifax and cascades down to TransUnion. Product highlights and property types. The property must be owned by the applicant. Cosigners are not required to live at home. Credit Human does not have a welcome call, but they do complete a courtesy call at time of funding. So when the product is funded, they will reach out to the customer to go over their loan with them. Now, we mentioned earlier at the beginning of this presentation that the Q&A box will pop up about halfway through. So hopefully you saw that and you've been submitting your questions. We've got stakeholders from Freedom here to address all the questions you have about this exciting new Aura product. So give us a moment to sift through some of these questions and we'll start answering them here. Again, this is a good time to send those questions into the Q&A. We'll go through and refresh. There's probably a few duplicates in there. So if you don't see your question on there and we address it live in the chat, just assume that that was one of the ones that we've already addressed. One of the first questions is, are we going to be able to rewatch this? With all of our webinars, we add this to our product education video library, and we will send a recap with additional resources sometime later today. Another question we got, and we've gotten this one a few times in our Q&A, is from Paul. And that is, who keeps the SREX or other state credits? Rob, do you want to go ahead and take that one?
Yep, for sure. Can you hear me all right, Mark?
Yes, sir. We got you.
All right, very good. Morning, everybody. So when we get to states with SREX, we'll cover this in a little bit more depth. It's going to depend, like Illinois, Maryland, certain states with certain incentives will operate differently. It's going to be very state by state. So for right now, sit tight on that question. It's a great question. We'll get back to you when we open up new states with specifics on how each incentive is treated in those states.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Go ahead and get this one off screen. And our next is from Ashley. I know we said that this would be available next year. That's 2026, not 2027. Can you give a breakdown of what the plan is for opening new states?
Yeah, we expect to have every state we operate in open in early 2026. TBD on exact timing there. We'll let everyone know as we have that roadmap. But as Mark shared earlier in the presentation, we have, I think it's about 7 or 8 different states that we expect to be opened in the next month or so. And then we're going to aggressively work to add on states, with the prepaid leasing companies over the next couple of months.
Okay, we have a question from Bobby, and it's can I switch an existing Credit Human loan that has not been installed yet to this product? Is this something that people be able to switch to?
Absolutely will. And that will be, one of our kind of plan Bs for any cash or loan customers that aren't installed by the end of the year in states where this is available. So definitely can. The way that would work is you essentially would cancel the Freedom Supply and Install agreement. We would sign a new prepaid lease agreement, and then you would adjust the Credit Human loan amount, if of course there is one, to the new upfront lease amount owed, which, as Mark covered in the presentation here, would be typically 25 to 35% less than the original cash price. So this is a slam dunk for cash customers. Instead of having to take the tax credit, wait for it to come back, be out that cash in the meantime, like Mark said in the presentation, you get that discount right up front. It works awesomely. And in most situations, that tax credit is going to be at least 30% and sometimes as much as 35%. So it's a great product. I do see Brett now. Looks like we got him live on the screen. Brett, you want to go ahead with your comments?
Yeah. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
Yeah. The one thing I just want to address is that, I do know that most people within our system sell TPO. You can obviously see that by last year's numbers, where in 25, we're going to be over 80% of our volume is TPO. But I want to just give you guys some historical view on loans and TPO products. Freedom, I came into residential solar in 2015, and at the time, most of our sales were TPO. But in 2017 and 2018, when mainstream loan products came out, we saw a massive shift to loan in 2017 and 2018. So much so is in 2019 to 2022, we were 85% loan and only 15% TPO. And I remember when the shift went back to TPO because of the Inflation Reduction Act and because individual customers could not tap into these additional tax credits, that's why TPO took off in 2022. But I also remember everyone not knowing how to sell TPO. Now the opposite has happened. There's a lot of people out there that have come into this industry that are on this webinar right now that have only been selling TPO and might not even know how to sell loan. And one of the biggest challenges of going to loan was trying to understand if the customer had the eligibility around the tax credits. Because of this hybrid product, you don't need to find out if the customer is eligible for the tax credit because they're not getting the tax credit. That's going to our tax equity partner, but they're getting 100%, in a lot of cases, 120% of the tax credit they could get in the old loan. To me, this is the most significant innovation in residential solar in the 10 years I've been doing this. It is by far a superior product. And it's a superior product because the customer at the end owns the system. Another issue that has come up in the last couple of years is virtual power plants. If you're selling a battery on a TPO, I want to make sure everybody understands that. The finance company owns 100% of the rights on VPP. In this product, over the 6-year period where it will be a lease, the customer still gets 30% of all VPP compensation that comes. And then once they own the system, they get 100% of that. The reason that's important is because we are in the embryonic stages of virtual power plants, but we are seeing significant payments to customers already in markets like California and Texas, which are very battery heavy. And to give you a specific example from my home, I get $50 a month because I've signed up in the Tesla VPP program, which, by the way, any of the customers in California can sign up for this. And not only is my bill went from $1,200 personally down to $20, which is mostly fixed transmission charges, I have 6 power walls, so I get $300 in cash. So I'm actually netting $280 a month because of my solar system. All right. These are things that are very, very unique that we weren't even talking about a year ago. And I know there's some complexity, and I know everyone in this industry looks for the simplest product, but like, we need to become professionals and we need to sell the best product. There is a lot of analysis around resale value of homes on purchases versus TPO products. And everything advantages when you buy the system. There is a lot of home buyers that don't want to buy a product with a TPO product on it or buy a home with a TPO product on it. So I think you're going to see a massive shift back to home ownership through this hybrid product. And what we have built, we are so far ahead of everyone. On January 1, with this product, with the escalating loan product that no one else will have, you might see competing products at the end of Q1, maybe in Q2, but I am confident that nothing will come close to this. This is the greatest competitive recruiting advantage and the greatest advantage in the home, but it only works if you understand it and you use it. So I'm going to challenge everyone on this call to make sure they understand all of the nuances. All right. We have to literally evolve. It's not about simplicity. And a lot of people say, hey, reps just want the simplest product. I will never buy into that. Be smart. Give the customer the best possible product. We have delivered. Now it's time for you guys to get out in the market, do your homework, do the math, understand the complexity, and this will crush. Even though Freedom was 80% TPO last year, the overall residential solar market was 50% loan and cash. So there's a significant amount, and this product should increase that percentage in 2026. I believe in 2026, this has the potential to be a majority of our volume. And I'm not even going to hit on less change orders, higher realization rates because of the production tolerances of TPO. We have a very, very thin margin, and a lot of things can go wrong on TPO that will not go wrong on loans or cash or this hybrid product. That is another ancillary benefit. That's not why you should sell it. You should sell it because this is the most superior product that exists in the market today, and only you have access to it. Thank you. I'm going to hang around for the Q&A.
All right. Thanks, Brett. Yeah, that was great. I do want to expand on the ownership transfer and home sale. scenarios. We're getting some questions in the chat about it. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this to work. Share my screen. Mark or Brett, can you guys just confirm you can see my screen all right?
I can see it. Ownership transfer.
All right, very good. So let's expand on this ownership transfer and exactly how this works according to the lease agreement. So in the lease, and we'll have in the Sales Resource Center by the end of today an example of kind of a lease template, so you can see all the terminology in there. But the way this is written in the lease is that the customer has the option to purchase the system at a few different times throughout the lease term. And this isn't all that different from a normal monthly lease in terms of when they can buy it. So it's at the 6th anniversary of the installation, each anniversary thereafter, and any time after the 6th anniversary in the event of the home sale. Now, the purchase price is written to be the fair market value no less than $0. All right. Now, what the leasing companies in our case here can't put in writing is that it will be $0. They can't say that, and nor should you guys. That is definitely going to be $0. But that is absolutely what we expect it to be, because at the end of the day, what's happened here is the customer has already prepaid for 25 years worth of use of that system. So the leasing company has that cash in hand, and they are going to offset that against the fair market value that whatever the system is at that, at the time that the customer is attempting to purchase it. So we do expect that the fair market value will be, if not zero, very, very close to zero. All right. Now, once the homeowner does take ownership, the leasing company is no longer involved. They are out of the picture. They're gone. The customer now owns the system. The leasing company is not there. If the customer took out a credit human loan to finance the lease, they are going to continue paying that over the loan term, whatever that is. Typically, it's going to be 20 years. So if that were in the 6th anniversary, they would have 14 years of that loan left over. Of course, they can always prepay that if they want. They can re-amortize that in up to 3 times if they want over the life of the loan. And of course, they're going to continue to have Freedom's installation warranty and the manufacturer warranties on that system. All right, so I hope that illuminates the ownership transfer a little bit. I do also want to continue this and talk about the home sale scenario, all right, because this is a really critical part. As Brett, just talked about, there are some pretty key differences here with a monthly TPO versus what we're dealing with here. So on a monthly TPO, typically the options are, okay, you can transfer this monthly TPO to a new homeowner, or you can prepay the remaining amounts. Now, I'm sure many of you have gone through this. I certainly have in my time here in solar. I think generally realtors and homeowners, this is a generalization, but in my experience, they don't like to take on monthly TPO. And by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, TPO stands for third party owned system. So we're talking about power purchase agreements and leases, right? Generally, they don't like to take those on, and they can use that as a negotiating chip when buying a house, right? They don't want to take on that liability generally, right? And there's a lot of information out there. I mean, just Google it, use ChatGPT, whatever. Ask, hey, does the home value increase on a home with a monthly PPA, a solar monthly PPA? And the answer typically is going to be no. The home value doesn't increase because ultimately there is an obligation over a long period of time that you need to pay. Now, conversely, with Aura, they can market that home as including a paid off solar system. The solar system comes with the house. The utility bills are lower. That is now an asset, not a liability, not an obligation. And so they can, typically the way this would work is the homeowner essentially markets the property, including the solar system. And then if they need to, they can repay that credit human loan, any principal balance with the proceeds of the home. And since that is a finite amount, there's just a loan, there's a principal balance, usually economically that works out better. So I took a quick look and I said, okay, what does a real situation look like here? So I just pulled a random contract, prepaid, a monthly lease contract, and looked at what the numbers were going to be. This was for a scenario where there was a $39,000 original gross system price. And I looked at what would the prepayment amount of that monthly TPO be at year 6 versus what would it be with Aura. And you can see here is a $35K buyout price with a monthly TPO. There's a $26K remaining principal amount at year 6 with Aura. So right there, you can see that's a massive difference. It's a $9,000 difference if a customer were to sell their home and they wanted to pay off the system between monthly TPO and Aura. So it's a big difference here in these scenarios. If ever the customer does want to sell their home, this is a massive selling point of Aura. So wanted to elaborate on that further, Mark. I'll give you back the screen and kick it over to you to continue with the Q&A. Thanks.
Thanks, Rob. So some of the questions we've got, I know we had this one earlier, and I'm going to put it up on the screen. Is there a limit to the amount of rental or Airbnb properties you can do with this? Now, we did some digging behind the scenes while we were, listening to Brett and Rob's portion. And as of right now, we don't see a limit to that. So if that changes, we'll get that information out. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that.
Yeah, Mark, I think the caveat there is just need to make sure that the customer qualifies for the loan amount that would be needed, right? So Credit Human does give an approved loan amount, and so as long as the customer has the available loan amount still available, then it should be good.
Thanks, Brian. Now this is from Raymond. During the first 6 years, will the homeowner only be paying a Credit Human payment? So the Credit Human payment will be if you use the Credit Human product, it'll be for the 20-year term. It's at 8.49%. There is no dealer fee with that. The 6 years is if they decide to transfer ownership from Participate over to themselves. Now, if they still have any remaining balance on that loan, they'll still continue to make payments. Rob, do I have that correct?
Yeah, you know that. I think the point here is that there's if you're financing this with Credit Human, you're never paying anyone other than Credit Human, right? So there's an upfront amount that's owed to the prepaid leasing company. You're financing that amount with a Credit Human loan. There's no amount ever that you would pay beyond that to anyone here, right? So you can pay that upfront amount with cash if the homeowner has cash, or you would finance it with Credit Human. Credit Human is going to be the only party that you would pay here throughout the term of the loan. So the answer to that question is yes.
And one thing I did want to add is that some people look at a 20-year product as a negative, and I want to be clear, it's a huge positive. All right, when you look at the customer in terms of what they pay in total payments over a 20-year loan with Aura versus a 25-year TPO product, we are seeing an average of a customer paying $20,000 less in payments over the term of the agreement. That differs from state to state. In Florida, you might see slightly under $20,000. In markets like California, you'll see $25,000 of differences. And that's where you guys need to really, truly understand this. And we need to make sure that we do a good job articulating in the presentation how much less payment you're going to pay over the life of a 25-year TPO. Because when you go in there and you properly sell it, you crush your competitors with this product. But you have to understand how to sell it correctly.
Yeah, it's a great point, Brett. And we can provide some tools in the Sales Resource Center to help you illustrate that better. It would be very easy for us to put together a calculator that shows based on the TPO payment or the Aura payment, what the total paid over the 25-year term is. So we'll work on creating that and put that in the Sales Resource Center for you guys soon.
Thanks, y'all. Next question is from Mark, and it is, what if the customer does not want the ownership after 6 years? Can they just continue to go with the prepaid lease and leave the ownership with Participate?
Yes, absolutely. It is an option to own the system. They do not need to take that option. Of course, it's there. We expect most homeowners to do so, but if they want to keep the prepaid lease there, they certainly can.
Okay, we do have some questions specific to Credit Human. Now, we did put the requirements in the presentation, but we'll attach the finance payments at a glance document to the recap. And in that document, it shows, yes, with Credit Human, you can do add-ons. It shows that they're the ones filing the UCC on the equipment, which are a couple of the questions we have here in the chat. And we can rapid fire through a bunch of these, right? So we've just cleared if the customer does not want to take it after year 6. Is there a dealer fee? So the Credit Human loan does not have a dealer fee. It's 8.49%, no dealer fee. And if you do cash, there's no dealer fee on that as well. A couple other questions we have coming through.
Sorry, Mark, just to correct that, the paid keeper fee would apply to the cash amount
right.
for cash shop. So just to correct
Good
that.
catch. And we have a lot of folks asking, when do we expect this to go live and for folks to be able to start selling that? Rob, do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, this should be live today. We're just wrapping up, kind of getting all the documents ready to go and set up. As soon as it is live, you will see the Aura options in the custom financing sections within Aurora. So on the financing page in the dropdown, you select Aurora Custom Financing, and you'll see all of the Aura options there. Just a quick note on this, when it does go live, which again should be shortly after this webinar. Make sure to just be really detailed and choose the correct option. All right. As Mark went over in the presentation, this is pretty critical. You need to look at what product you're selling. So that's either going to be, credit human or cash, first of all. Second of all, make sure you're looking at, is it PV only or PV with storage? And then what is the mount type? Is it a roof mount? Is it a ground mount? And then if it is a ground mount, you need to look at whether it's energy community. So I know that sounds like a lot. You need to be detailed here. You need to make sure to choose the right option, or else you're likely going to need a change order because the discount percentage will be off, and that'll throw off all of the numbers from there. It is pretty simple. If it's a roof mount PV only or it's storage, there's only two options there, so it's very simple. But if it is a ground mount, that's where you need to go digging a little bit further, as Mark went over in the presentation. So please just make sure you are very detailed and you're looking at the entire string there and choosing the correct option that applies to that job that you're selling.
Thanks, Rob.
But today the zero escalator product will be the only loan product that is available till early January, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So in all of the Credit Human, and I'm not sure if we can go back to that slide. I can actually potentially share my screen and show it in Aurora. But what we'll show is it's going to show Aura, and then in parentheses, it's going to say P. There's no loan in that scenario. But of course, if, to your point, Mark, if they are taking out a Credit Human loan to pay for the prepaid lease, then that would show up as debt and as a loan on their credit report.
Thanks, Rob. Many of the questions we're getting have to deal with the 6-month payment window. So we can address that when you do a Credit Human loan, that 6-month timer starts from the day of install. So it's not when the system is activated. It is from the day of install. That's when this first 6 months of payments go into effect. And you're going to see that on the Aurora proposal as well. You'll see 0 through 6, 0 payments, and then the monthly payment for the remainder of that Credit Human loan will be underneath that. And as we introduce the Escalator product as well, it'll show that as well, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, there's 6 months. And to tweak that answer, it's 6 months from the initial funding date when Credit Human funds Freedom. So whenever that is, typically to your point, that is at install. That's what starts the 6 months clock. Brett, do you want to get into it all? What's coming with Credit Human in mid-January? We haven't really covered much about milestones or anything like that. How much of that do you want to get into?
We can cover the milestones, but we can definitely do that. We will have the largest M1s in our system through this product, thanks to Credit Human.
All right, super exciting. So you heard it here first. There will be M1s with this product. We'll, of course, get that info out to your dealers, and they'll funnel that down to you guys on what those amounts will be in each market.
So we do have some folks in the Q&A asking for more details about how VPPs will work, and if they, because they're using cash or finance for the system, how will they collect any incentives, and do those incentives work, especially with the growing market for VPPs? Do either of you guys want to speak on the excitement of VPPs for this program?
I think I'll just say, Brett, obviously chime in if you want to, but there's going to be more coming on VPPs. I don't think right now is the time to talk about it, but when we do have more to come on VPPs, it's something that we're very excited about. I'm having conversations with providers here almost daily at this point. There will be some exciting things coming on VPP. Not ready to talk about them yet, but of course, when they're ready, we'll tell you about them. And yeah, we're very excited about them and think they're going to be a game changer.
Yes, and again, we cannot guarantee this, but we fully expect within 1 to 5 years for every customer to be able to get a significant dollar amount of VPP if they have a battery and they own the system. So that is an exciting development. It's already a reality in California and Texas. And again, this wasn't a reality a year ago. And we are creating our own Freedom VPP that's coming, but you will see us expand to every state. And even though there is not a great VPP program in Illinois right now, we expect there will be. It has to do with off-peak and peak demand. They need to tap in when there is peak demand, and they're willing to pay customers a premium to do that. And you're seeing that in every market. And it's really bad in California today, but the more solar systems come onto the grid that are PV only, the more demand there is during these peak times for batteries. So if you put a battery on a system, I would feel confident. It doesn't matter whether you're in Florida, Illinois, you don't have to be in California and Texas. There is a huge monetary upside with VPP over the life of that product. That is incredibly exciting. And even though we knew VPPs were coming a couple years ago, we now have a couple of states to quantify the value. And in both states, I think in Texas, it's $40 a month. In California, it's $50 a month. That is a game changer from an economic standpoint for buying a residential solar system. And we talk about all the tailwinds that our industry has had in 25. This might be the most significant advancement in economics in our industry's history. But you need to make sure that you put that customer, that they have the opportunity to cash in on that opportunity, and they just don't on a TPO product. They cede those rights to the TPO provider. And it doesn't mean the TPO provider cannot give some of the benefit in the future to them, but right now, contractually, they own the rights versus the customer.
All right, Mark, I'm just going to do a couple of rapid fire questions here that I'm seeing coming in, and some that we've already covered. I'll just reiterate. One of the questions is availability in utilities and how certain utilities will treat this. This is still a lease in the eyes of utilities. I think the biggest one that we get asked about is CPS in Texas. We are in discussions with CPS directly about this product and working with them to hopefully open this up. As of this point, though, they don't allow leases, and this is still considered a lease in that utility, and maybe a couple others in specifically Texas and Florida also. So, short answer is it is not allowed in CPS at this point. Austin Energy, I believe, is the same case, but we're hoping to be able to work with them in the future to open this up. Some other questions we're getting are about availability. We covered that a little earlier. We're getting some questions about Puerto Rico. We are working to open this in Puerto Rico, but I can't say definitively that we will or when it will happen, but we absolutely view that as a priority, and we're working to get that done. So more to come on that if and when we can open that in Puerto Rico. We're getting some questions about jobs in closed markets that, of course, we're coming up on the ITC deadline at the end of the year in every market, not just closed markets. But we talked about this earlier, that we absolutely, if customers don't get installed by the end of the year, where Aura is available, customers can sign up for it, of course. And instead of financing a purchase with Credit Human or paying cash for a purchase, they can simply pay for the prepaid lease, which would be already discounted, as we've talked about many times at this point, by the ITC. If it is in a closed state, I'm not going to guarantee that we can get those done. We need to work with Freedom's local operations teams and see if those can be installed. That's going to be a very case-by-case basis that we'll go through on a one-off scenario.
But we fully expect to have Aura launched in every state in the continental U.S. By end of Q1, and I'm optimistic we'll have most states open by end of January. So the caveat is Puerto Rico. There is just issues around titles and clear titles and UCC filings down there that could prohibit the product in Puerto Rico. We're going to work very aggressively to make it happen, but ultimately it'll be up to Credit Human. And as you guys know, it's been very difficult for loan companies to go down to Puerto Rico because of the clarity on titles.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Sorry. So again, a lot of the questions that we have coming in now are duplicates or questions about, things that we've already stated. We will send out training and guides about this, including step-by-step PDFs and videos to address some of the questions in the chat. There is no welcome call with Credit Human. They do a verification call, almost like a courtesy call when it is funded. And we do have a lot of questions about structures beyond what was listed in the presentation. Things like carports, patios, like that. That's come in a few times. I'm not sure if that's something we can address or if that's allowed. I don't believe Credit Human allows those structures. But Rob, can you verify? Or Brian?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do actually. Anything need to build the system? Credit Human, I'll defer to you, Brian. I'm pretty sure they're fine with it. On the prepaid leasing side, I think those are going to be just fine for the most part. If it's needed to install the solar system, they're going to be just fine with that. Brian, do you want to take the Credit Human portion?
Yeah, ground mounts are allowed. When we're talking about carports or shade structures, those are allowed as well. But just note that those are essentially like elevated ground mounts. We're not doing big fancy pergolas or anything like that. But if it's a like a ground mount with elevated shade structure, that will be allowed.
All right, and then I see a question about EPC pricing. The question is it capped or can we price it at anything? Again, as we stated earlier, there's no savings test with this product. So from that perspective, you don't have a cap. We will have the net PPW caps as we've normally had with loans that apply to this product, or cash or loan jobs. So Freedom will kind of self-impose a net PPW cap there as we normally do. But again, there's plenty of room there. That does not accounts for adders and such. So it's not a gross PPW cap; it's a net PPW cap. So there's plenty of room there for what you need to sell it at. So no rate caps, just the net PPW caps.
Thanks, Rob. We have a question about, generating multiple quotes for the products to the customer and change orders. I think with this specific product, you're going to want to quote the appropriate product for the situation. So if it's PV only, if it's PV storage, if it's ground mount or roof mount, there's a specific product that addresses all of them. So clear with them which direction they're going to go and quote them in that direction instead of quoting them all four and then relying on a change order later. That'd be my best advice. Right, y'all?
Yep, always agree with that. I'll cover the exclusivity question again. We're getting that in the chat a couple of times here. So in terms of availability for Aura itself, the Aura product generally is not necessarily exclusive to Freedom. We are on a very short list of installers that will have access to the Participate Energy prepaid lease, which is a very attractive from a discount percentage product. There are other prepaid leasing companies out there in the marketplace. We may work with them in the future. We're not going to shut that door. I think generally they are less attractive from an upfront discount percentage than Participate is, which is why we're working with Participate. So we're not necessarily exclusive, but we are on a short list of people that have access to this Participate product. Where we are exclusive, and this is the, in my opinion, the most important part of Aura here, is with the Credit Human 20-year escalating loan. No one else in the market will have access to that product. That product unlocks a great number of states here in terms of kind of competing with the year one payment of traditional products in those markets. So between, again, as Mark said in the presentation, between the high upfront discount that we get with Participate and the low year one payments of that escalating loan product, this is going to be a very attractive product in many states. I'm very excited for you guys to go run the numbers on Arizona specifically. These numbers look great in Arizona. In fact, they are better than most of the monthly TPOs that we have there today, if not all of them. So Arizona is a slam dunk here. You're going to see in states that are PV only, where you get the 35% ITC, it's going to be very attractive. States in the Northeast, Florida, Georgia in some instances, right? So this product will be attractive, and once the escalating loan comes out, it will compete and in some instances be significantly better pricing on a monthly, versus a monthly TPO product. So again, you guys will be able to run your own comps in Aurora. You can run them side by side and see how this works. We'll have some tools to be able to, potentially more easily compare products and be able to compare, the full 25-year cost. But again, shift your mindset a little bit here, as Brett was getting to earlier. Look at the long-term vision here for the customer. It's not just about year one price payment rate. Obviously, that's important. This product will compete, but put yourself in the shoes of the customer and think about this as a long-term product, a long-term, addition to their home and what that's going to cost them. This product will cost tens of thousands of dollars less over the 25 years versus a normal TPO. And in that, kind of framing, this product crushes the other TPO products out there.
Yeah, and I want to be clear how difficult the escalating loan product was to get done. No one in the history of loans have ever created an escalating loan product, and we've been asking for it for years. Credit Human is the largest credit union in the United States. And I can tell you, Sunlight, Dividend, Goodleap, Enfin, all of these loan companies have no interest in creating an escalating loan product. A lot of them don't want to create any loan products to compete with their TPOs because the finance companies make more money on TPO versus a hybrid or loan product. That's why you've seen companies like Goodleap that all they did was loan get into the TPO market. So that is we don't expect any competition on the loan escalating product. That's what makes this so unique and incredible. And the fact that we're able to do it on a 20-year product gives you the lower payment advantage over the life of the agreements. When you show apples to apples to a customer that they're going to pay $20,000 less, it's massive. And if anybody owns their own home and you look at those mortgage payments and you see how much you pay over 30 years, a lot of times it's almost triple what your mortgage is. People are used to seeing the total payments, and when you could show them a drastic difference in the total payments, it's an incredible advantage in the marketplace. To me, we've never given our sales force this much of an advantage, and I couldn't be any more excited.
All right. Actually, the remaining questions we have are pretty much duplicates, or we can get them answered offline. If you have something that wasn't answered, you can email us at producteducation@freedomforever.com. I think that's a great closing point and a great point that Brett made. We want to thank everyone for joining us for the Aura webinar today. Again, we will send out a recap later this afternoon with resources, and look for this product to go live shortly, and we will send out information when that happens. On behalf of Brett, Brian, Rob, we want to thank you for being here, and we look forward to having you back on for our